started. My name is Kate Winnebeck. I'm with the New York State Pollution Prevention Institute. If you're not familiar with our organization, we're a nonprofit group here in New York State. We're housed at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester. And really our goal is to reduce toxic chemical use, reduce emissions and waste generation, and have efficient use of raw materials, energy, and water all throughout New York State. So kind of consumer education is one piece to that. As you can see the map, we have kind of statewide coverage. We're linked with a couple other universities. I don't know why it keeps asking me this. Sorry. Okay. So what we're going to go over today, we're going to go through cleaning product regulations, kind of an overview of those, and then really get into what are the chemicals of concern that you might find in different cleaning products, products that typically contain them, what the concerns are, some alternatives that are out there, or if you're going to use some of these products, ways to reduce exposure, where to find green cleaners or greener cleaners, I should say, and then some resources for additional information. So this webinar series is based on a series of in-person workshops that we developed and delivered in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Messina, New York over the last 2 years. Funding is provided by both the U.S. EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative and the Pollution Prevention Institute through grants that we have through the state DEC. And the goal of this series is to educate consumers about ways in which we can improve water quality through our actions at home. So there are 30 areas of concern in the U.S. Great Lakes. So this is kind of the whole Great Lakes Basin. You can see there are some additional areas of concern on the Canadian side of the border. But these are places where chemical contamination has seriously endangered quality of life for either people, wildlife, or both. So really the goal is to improve water quality so that we can kind of delist these areas of concern so we can better the water quality of our lakes. So why is it important to green your clean? There are some health implications. You know, a lot of ingredients in cleaning products can be hazardous to our health. Anybody that's used really strong products knows you can have skin, nose, throat, eye irritation. They can be endocrine disruptors. Some of the chemicals or ingredients in our products could actually affect our hormones, and they can do that really in 3 ways. They could mimic a hormone, they could block the effects of hormones, or stimulate or inhibit the endocrine system. As we talk through ingredients today, you'll see some of those definitely that are endocrine disruptors, and we'll talk a little bit about those as we go. And then a lot could contribute to or cause asthma as well. And then in the environment, you know, all of the products we use at home are released to the environment during normal use. When we rinse them down the drain, it could also be evaporation as well when we're using them. Some interesting, statistics. 2002 survey found that 70% of streams tested contained breakdown products of detergents. So we know that the cleaning products we use at home are actually, getting through our water treatment plants and ending up in the environment and contaminating the environment. So cleaning product regulations. There are 8 different things that have to be on a label, on a cleaning product label. So some of the basics, name and place of business of the manufacturer, the common name or the chemical name of the product, any signal words, and we'll talk about those on the next slide, any precautionary measures to follow, instructions for first aid treatment and handling and storage, some statement saying to keep out of reach of children or some practical equivalent of that. And then there are a list of certain substances that are declared to be caustic poisons that have to be listed on a label. The EPA regulates anything that's an antimicrobial, a disinfectant, anything that's out there that says specifically it kills organisms. as pesticides. So those are kind of regulated a little bit differently. So those signal words, things to look for, and these are kind of listed worst to least worst, I guess we'll call it. So toxic being the worst, poisonous or lethal when ingested, touched, or inhaled. Danger, I find these kind of interesting. So 1 taste to 1 teaspoon is fatal to a 180-pound male. And then you have warning and caution. So caution being 1 ounce to 1 pint, and then warning 1 teaspoon to 1 ounce. So there really is kind of some rhyme or reason to those words we see on product labels. So something to think of too. Even if that's the best you can do is choose between one that says, danger or warning, right? Try to choose the one with kind of the lowest signal word. So just an overview of some of the most common cleaners used in some of the rooms in our homes. And again, we're going to go through some of these ingredients. We obviously can't talk about every ingredient used in every cleaning product in our home today. So we're really going to hit some of the big ones. But just kind of an overview of some that you might find, in air fresheners, which we will talk about. You find formaldehyde and fragrance. In toilet bowl cleaners, you can find things toxic to your respiratory system, circulatory systems, mold and mildew cleaners. You'll notice a lot of these have dangerous fumes or may be linked to breathing problems. That's why we always say use in highly ventilated areas whenever you're doing any kind of cleaning. And then in the kitchen, non-phenol ethoxylates, so you find those in all-purpose cleaners. We're going to talk about those in more detail. Same as Butyl Cellosolve. We'll talk about that one as well. Phosphates in dishwashing detergent. We'll talk about that one some more. Oven and drain cleaners are kind of two of the most hazardous cleaners that you will find in your home, simply because of the sodium hydroxide and sulfuric acid that can be in them. So really, if you are using products like that, and at the end we'll talk about some greener products to use instead of kind of your traditional oven cleaners or drain cleaners. But if you are using those, to definitely use them with caution. Prevent skin contact where you can. Not using them around children. Not using them around pregnant women, elderly, others that might be kind of susceptible to some of these issues too. And then cleaners used in the living room. Again, we have air fresheners, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Stain removers. You might find perchloroethylene in stain removers. Perchloroethylene is also traditional dry cleaning fluid, so you can definitely find that in some stain removers, made for fabrics or made for carpets. Glass and surface cleaners, those non-phenol ethoxylates again, and Butyl Cellosolve we'll talk about a little bit more. What else? So again, a lot of skin, eye, respiratory tract irritation. A few are suspected carcinogens as well. So now we'll get into kind of some of the more specific chemicals that you might find or that you might encounter. The first is kind of a class of chemicals. So VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. These are chemicals that are emitted from solids or liquids at room temperature and contaminate air. So if you think about products that have a smell to them, or whether it's a chemical smell or even a fragrance, that smell that you're smelling is a chemical coming out of that product. So a good example is kind of a cheap shower curtain, cheap plastic shower curtain. If you've ever ripped one of those open or opened the package and you smell that plasticky smell, those are actually phthalates coming out of the plastic that you're then breathing in or inhaling. So same thing with paint. If you ever use paint and you can smell the paint, those are VOCs that are coming out of the paint, and then you're inhaling them or you're breathing them in. So concentrations of many VOCs can be up to 10 times higher indoors than outdoors. So these are things that we find a lot more inside than we find outside. And they can be emitted by a wide array of products. So like I mentioned, paints, aerosol sprays, cleansers and disinfectants. So any cleaners that have a really strong smell to them, or really any smell, I mean that's chemicals that you're breathing in. Moth repellents, air fresheners, even things like candles can have VOCs. Dry cleaning clothing, the chemicals that are used to clean your clothes actually volatilize out, and you can breathe those in as well. And then the health effects vary greatly. It's going to vary depending on the chemical that's actually in that product or the chemical that's coming out. It can be from highly toxic to no known health effects, and could include, or some of the really common ones are eye, nose, throat irritation. If you've ever put together particle board furniture, like the sets you can buy at the store that you put them together yourself, they're usually relatively cheap. A lot of times the glue in that particle board is formaldehyde based. So we know that formaldehyde is a carcinogen. That's another VOC. So that formaldehyde can come out of the glue. That can be one that could be very toxic. And then you might have something that isn't a cleaner that has really no known health effect from it. Maybe it's a natural scent, something that is truly a lemon-based scent that has no real health effect to it. And then some, like formaldehyde, could cause cancer in animals. Some are suspected or known to cause cancer in humans. And long-term exposure can cause sick building syndrome. If anybody's kind of heard that buzzword before, that's kind of people that really do get sick from being inside buildings and from the chemicals around that are in the buildings. So some things that you can do, make sure if you have products with VOCs with a smell to them, use them according to manufacturer's directions. Have plenty of fresh air when using them. If you're cleaning a bathroom, even turning on your exhaust fan, opening a window. Throw away unused or little used containers safely. If you have products that you don't use very often, just get rid of them, not having them around. Keeping things out of reach of children, out of reach of pets, and then not mixing products unless you're directed to on the label. So specifically, aerosol products, anything that's an aerosol has some kind of propellant to propel the contents out of the container. So if you think about spray cleaners, so like an oven cleaner usually is an aerosol spray. A lot of air fresheners are aerosols. Even non-stick cooking spray, so like your PAM, something similar to that, is going to have some kind of propellant in it. So typically it's one of these three chemicals here, the N-butane, isobutane, or dimethyl ether, that's pushing that chemical out of the container. So those are all VOCs. They're all highly flammable also, so being careful where you store things, how you use them. And then whenever you have aerosol products, you have very small particles that can easily enter your lungs, so things that you can very easily breathe in. A great safer alternative are pump sprays. So like that bottom picture there, kind of your old-fashioned or classic pump spray to use instead of the aerosol. And then in addition to that, aerosol air fresheners typically contain a whole slew of ingredients. So formaldehyde is usually in them, some kind of propellant, petroleum distillates, this p-dichlorobenzene, and then fragrance, which we'll talk a lot about next, I believe. And they're usually highly flammable. They're strong irritants to eye, skin, and throat. a very good, safer alternative to any kind of air freshener is simply baking soda. I mean, putting baking soda in your bathroom, or like we use it in my son's nursery next to the diaper trash can, change it out every couple months, and that really works for us. So something that's very cheap, very available, and that you can use is just baking soda. Or even think about, for all these products, do you really need them? So something like an air freshener, do you really need an air freshener in your living room making your house smell like spring mist? Is that something that you really need to have? If not, then cut it out and just kind of quit cold turkey and not even have that product if you don't need it. Okay, so fragrance. We are exposed to a lot of scented products. So I know we're talking about cleaning products today, but there's air fresheners, laundry soap, personal care products, even candles, a lot of things that are scented. We're just exposed to a lot of them. They're usually made up of a blend of chemicals. So if you see fragrance on a product label, it can indicate up to 4,000 separate ingredients. And most of those are going to be synthetic. The way we're exposed to fragrance and these fragrance chemicals, we breathe them in. So again, perfume, cleaners, anything that's kind of airborne, anything that we can smell. If you can smell that scent, then you're breathing in the fragrance. Or it can be absorbed through our skin. So that could be cleaning products if you're not wearing gloves, if you're coming into contact with it. It can be laundry soap on clothes and bed sheets. If anybody's ever had a skin reaction to changing their laundry soap, then you know that can definitely be an effect also, or you're definitely being exposed that way. And then any personal care products, so anything you put on your body that has some scent to it too. So the two chemicals that we typically find in fragrance that are of concern are synthetic musks and phthalates. So you might have heard about phthalates before. They're kind of becoming a buzzword in the environmental community anyway. So phthalates in fragrance, they act as solvents and carriers for the actual chemicals that create the scent. Their concern is that they are linked to endocrine disruption, right? We're pretty sure that they can cause some kind of reproductive issues that can affect our hormones. And phthalates are used in, or they're found in flexible PVC. So that shower curtain I was talking about before, it's really hard to find PVC shower curtains now, but probably 5 or 10 years ago, if you bought a $1 or $2 plastic shower curtain, it was probably made out of PVC. So when you opened up that shower curtain and you got a whiff of that plastic, it was actually the phthalates coming out of that plastic. So it's the same chemical that you find in flexible PVC and that you also find in fragrance. And then synthetic musks. These are man-made chemicals to replicate kind of natural musk scents. They don't break down in the environment. Again, these are potential hormone disruptors. The EPA has also found that a lot of perfumes can contain toluene. So toluene is linked to liver, kidney, brain damage. And then the FDA, you can report symptoms to the FDA. So people have reported headaches, dizziness, rashes, skin discoloration, allergic skin irritation, all from kind of exposure to fragrances. And then this is kind of interesting, about 38% of Americans report that they have adverse effects when exposed to some kind of fragrance product. I think most of us have smelled someone's really strong perfume or really strong cologne and kind of had that reaction, in the past, so it's not uncommon. And then 20% of Americans report, breathing difficulties, headaches, or other health problems when exposed to air fresheners. And then 10% actually have effects when exposed to laundry products vented outdoors. Just kind of funny too. I've noticed if I walk through my neighborhood sometimes I can actually smell when somebody's doing their laundry. You can smell kind of the fabric softener in the air. So things that you can do, avoid products that have phthalate, musk, or fragrance as an ingredient. So when you actually look at the ingredients list, it's not just going to say phthalate, it might say dibutyl phthalate. So what you want to look for is at the end of the ingredient name, they'll have phthalate there. Or simply fragrance. The way the fragrances are regulated, manufacturers don't have to list what makes up the actual fragrance. That's considered a trade secret. So if something just says fragrance as an ingredient, it most likely contains a phthalate, most likely contains, some synthetic compounds as well. Avoiding air fresheners, avoiding scented candles. Choose fragrance-free products. Fragrance-free and unscented are not the same thing. Fragrance-free means that no chemicals have been added to the product that have any kind of scent to them. Unscented means that a chemical may be added to actually mask what the natural scent would be. So there's kind of a difference there. So the best is to choose fragrance-free. If you can't choose fragrance-free, then the second best is kind of unscented. Choose naturally scented products. So something that is maybe lemon scented or mint, something that is a real product in real life, is a real scent, may actually be scented with the natural product. So versus something like mountain mist, spring air, you can't bottle spring air. That's going to be a combination of chemicals that make up spring air versus something that's mint scented or lemon scented. Again, using baking soda, and then you could always use homemade fragrance-free cleaners too. There are a lot of recipes online. We'll have a few that we'll talk about towards the end, but you can go online and find a lot of homemade recipes for cleaners that you can use. And then just on the slide, there are a couple examples there of products that are fragrance-free. So there's a lot of products now on the market. It's just kind of looking for them. And I've noticed that, a lot of products that I've used, like dish soap or dishwasher tablets, they're just kind of spinning off and making a fragrance-free version of what they've always made. Just kind of nice. And then sodium hypochlorite or bleach. Bleach is a pesticide. It's there to kill germs, kill any kind of disease-causing microorganisms. Bleach in the bottle is about a 5% solution. You can find it in other products too that can have a lower or higher concentration. The largest use of chlorine is actually a raw material in the production of PVC plastic, so that same plastic that the phthalates came from. You'll see there's a theme with PVC through some of this stuff too. And some of the issues with bleach, or why bleach is not the best thing to use. So it contributes to RADS, which is a type of asthma. That's really the issue. Skin, nose, throat, eye irritation. What else? There's some indication that kind of the byproducts of chlorine, so some long-term effects could be kidney, bladder, or linked to kind of other cancers as well. These are some products that contain bleach, some examples of products that contain bleach here. So you can see it ranges from a lot of bathroom products, a lot of mold, mildew, tile, tub, and toilet bowl cleaners. So a lot of them are, I thought it was interesting, the Palmolive Eco all the way on the right, that's kind of advertised as their eco dishwashing detergent, that contains bleach. So some things that you can do, some actions you can take, choosing chlorine-free cleaning products. So looking for bleach and trying to avoid bleach on the ingredients list. Not mixing anything with ammonia and bleach, right? Avoid cleaning with bleach-based products if you or your children have asthma, or if you have any kind of lung or heart problems, because it can make those worse, can irritate even more so. What else? And then just some other ways to avoid chlorine in general. Avoid buying and using PVC products, choosing recycled and unbleached paper products. That's another way to kind of avoid bleach. Also, bleach is used in a lot of paper production. And if you have a swimming pool or a hot tub, instead of using kind of chlorine chemicals for your pool, think about using an ozonator instead. That can work. That's just a different option. And then we have quats, or quaternary ammonium compounds. So these are disinfectants. You usually find them in spray cleaners. A lot of things obviously labeled as disinfectant or antibacterial cleaner. Again, there are some example products that contain them. So you see a laundry detergent there, some spray cleaner, multi-surface cleaner, and static guard. And their big concern is that quats are asthmagens. So we know they can aggravate existing asthma or cause asthma in those that don't have it. That's one of the biggest concerns. They do release formaldehyde. So formaldehyde's a known carcinogen. And then they're very toxic to aquatic life. So again, once you use these products, you rinse them down the drain, they go to the water treatment plant, and then they end up in the environment. They can be very toxic once they're actually released. So some things to do, just avoiding quats wherever you can. And I have some really great resources at the end that I'll go through for where I'm pulling some of this information to know what products contain what ingredients, to help you kind of shop better, shop easier as well. Okay, triclosan. Triclosan is antibacterial, so it kills or slows the growth of bacteria. And the big concern is that it's linked to kind of the emergence of antibacterial resistant bacteria. So kind of superbugs. Are we creating this bacteria that now needs something even stronger to kill it? So the green box over here, the December 2013, the US FDA issued a proposed rule to require manufacturers of antibacterial hand soaps and body washes to demonstrate their products are safe for long-term daily use and more effective than plain soap and water. The EPA's, or not the EPA, excuse me, the FDA's stance, has really said that for the majority of consumer products, there's no evidence that triclosan provides an extra benefit. When you talk about hand soap or even dish soap, if you wash your hands well, then there's really no benefit in using an antibacterial hand soap versus using one that doesn't contain triclosan or another antibacterial ingredient. So really, in last December, the FDA came out and said, well, if you want to use these antibacterial ingredients, then kind of prove that they're safe and that they're effective. Otherwise, your product needs to be reformulated. You might have seen this on CNN's homepage. It was their big lead story for a day or two, and it could be kind of a big deal and actually changing a lot of the products that we see. So some things you can do. It's really easy to avoid triclosan. If you buy hand soap or dish soap and it says antibacterial, it probably contains triclosan. So that's That's an easy thing to look for. If you also look on the back of the label, so if you turn like hand soap over and you look in the back where it will list the ingredients, it will always tell you what percent triclosan is in it. So if you see the triclosan listed as a percentage, then you know that it contains triclosan. And there's really no cost differences between, you know, antibacterial hand soap or dish soap and non-antibacterial. You just have to shop around a little bit. And it's very easy to find in the stores. Ammonia. So ammonia helps lift dirt and grime off surfaces so it can be wiped away. So you find ammonia in a lot of different types of products. It's a colorless gas. It's a very distinct odor. You know, anybody that's used ammonia-based products knows what ammonia smells like. It can be used as a fertilizer as well. So it's really not the environmental effects that we're concerned with. Again, it's kind of the health effects. So irritating skin, eyes, throat, lungs. Again, people with asthma can be more sensitive. Greater damage if it's mixed with bleach, right? So it forms chloramine gas if it's mixed with bleach. That's why we don't mix any cleaners that we use. So things you can do in choosing products with either no ammonia or kind of the lowest percent of ammonia you can find. Ventilating rooms when you're using anything with ammonia. And then discontinue, this goes for anything, you know, if you have any symptoms from inhaling fumes, discontinuing use, getting fresh air kind of as soon as you can. And then there's some example products that contain it. So Windex, kind of your classic glass cleaner, carpet cleaner, and then a air freshener as well. Butyl Cellosolve, which is also known as, I tend to see kind of ethylene glycol monobutyl ether, this EGBE, you see that listed a lot in ingredients lists. And they're used to remove grease and oils. So think about like oven cleaners, a lot of kitchen cleaners, anything that says it's going to degrease or clean up kind of your grease and oils. Again, some examples there of products that contain it. And then some of the health effects. It can cause reproductive damage, and animal studies have shown that it causes reproductive damage in animals. It could damage liver and kidneys in us as well. You have the same kind of eyes, nose, mouth, throat irritation that we find with a lot of these. And we know that it's a neurotoxin as well. It's listed on California's toxic air substances list. Can irritate our mucous membranes, can cause, you know, a lot of different kind of health effects. So again, easiest thing to do is avoid it if you can. Avoid it in the ingredients list when you're buying products. And then alkyl phenol ethoxylates and nonylphenol ethoxylates, or APEs or NPEs. So these are surfactants that help other components of a cleaner penetrate grime. So anything that's, you find this in a lot of like heavy duty cleaners, anything that says it's really to penetrate oils, penetrate grime. So the concerns, a lot of the concern here is around the environment. They're very persistent in water. So that means once they get rinsed down the drain, they end up in the environment. They stay in the environment for a very long time. They don't break down quickly into kind of less toxic, you know, components. They stay in the water for a while. And they're extremely toxic to aquatic organisms. So not only do they hang around a while they're in water, but now the whole time they're hanging out, they're very toxic while they're in the water. And then they're irritating, corrosive to eyes and skin, and also potential endocrine disruptors. So there has been some government action taken towards especially NPEs. So back in September of 2011, the EPA did an alternatives assessment, so they identified 8 different alternative chemicals with less hazardous excuse me, environmental and human health effects. So they actually found some alternatives that can be used in cleaners. And then in December of 2012, California banned APEs and NPEs from oven and grill cleaners, general purpose cleaners and degreasers, and glass cleaners. And the reason they decided to ban them, the whole kind of toxic to aquatic organisms and aquatic species, they're hormone disruptors, and that there are replacements available. So after the EPA did this alternatives assessment, California could say, well, hey, there are alternatives that are available, so you as manufacturers should be using those. So that kind of gave them fuel, if you will, to do that. Here are some example products that contain them. You see a stain remover, dishwashing tabs, mildew remover, another bathroom cleaner. I think that's a laundry tablets, and then a floor cleaner. So looking for products that don't contain them, a green seal requirement, and we'll talk about green seal towards the end. So green seal is a third-party certification. So if a product has a green seal label, then that means it does not contain alkyl-phenol ethoxylate. It cannot contain that ingredient and get the green seal label. So that could be one way to kind of shop for products also. And then diethanolamine and monoethanolamine. These are surfactants that help other components of the cleaner penetrate grime. They're used to control pH. So really to neutralize acids in products to make them like non-irritating or less irritating. You find them in laundry detergent, floor strippers, oven cleaners, all these different products down here contain them. A lot of tub and tile cleaners, kitchen cleaners or multi-surface cleaners, even the Jet Dry contains it, Febreze contains them as well. And some of the concerns or health effects, both can cause or worsen asthma. So a lot of these products are linked to asthma, a lot of these ingredients. Diethanolamines, they're really slow to biodegrade. They react with nitrogen oxides and sodium nitrate that you find in the air and the atmosphere. And when they do that, they form nitrosamines, which are carcinogens. So essentially, once you have these diethanolamines, they're out in the environment, and then they form this carcinogenic, compound as well. You also find kind of nose, throat, skin irritation, a lot of the same things that we've been talking about. So avoiding products that contain them, if you are using them, avoiding skin contact, using in well-ventilated areas, being sure to rinse and washing your skin after you use things. So even if you are using these products, washing anywhere that's been exposed after you use them, rinsing off. And then lastly, phosphate. So I just want to touch on this one real quick because, back in 2010, now all Great Lakes Basin states have restricted phosphates in dishwasher detergent. It's carried to, excuse me, ponds, rivers, lakes, and streams. This is another one. We have phosphates in our dishwasher detergent, so once that detergent goes to the water treatment plant, the water treatment plant can't remove the phosphorus, so it ends up going out into the environment and ends up in our water. And then it's been linked to really reductions in oxygen for fish, so algae. That's what you see, a lot of the algae growth. It's just nutrient loading. So some things that you can do: buy phosphate-free dishwasher soap if you can. Even though all the states, the Great Lakes Basin states, have restricted phosphates, it doesn't mean that they've eliminated it. So you can still buy dishwasher soap, and this is soap specifically for dishwashers, so automatic dishwasher detergent. And not purchasing soap in other states, and then kind of importing it back in because it may contain higher levels of phosphates. So some things to keep in mind about using cleaning products safely, using them in well-ventilated areas and in areas away from anyone who might be sensitive. So anybody with asthma, infants, young children, seniors, pregnant women, storing cleaners and any other chemicals away from children, not mixing ammonia and bleach or acids in bleach, and then kind of to go with that, not using 2 drain cleaners together. Oftentimes we'll use one kind of commercial drain cleaner. It doesn't work, so we switch to another one. Well, one might contain bleach, one might contain acid, and now you've mixed the 2 together without intending to. If you think you've mixed them, get fresh air immediately. Contact your local poison control if you need to. That's the number. No matter where you are, they'll connect you to your local poison control. And then hopefully everybody's heard the term greenwashing before. So greenwashing is really the act of kind of misleading consumers regarding the environmental practices or environmental benefits of a product or a service. So how are companies advertising either their product or themselves as being green when they really truly aren't? So this, I believe what's on here now is from 2012. And this is cleaning products, and this was done by TerraChoice. And it's a cleaning products portfolio that they looked at, and they looked at the percentage of products that are committing each of these 7 different sins. So I'll kind of go through each of the sins, and I'm sure you guys can think of examples of these, of products that you've seen. So like sin of a hidden trade-off. So it's a claim suggesting that a product is green based on kind of very narrow set of attributes without looking at other things. So like paper is not necessarily environmentally preferable because it comes from a sustainably harvested forest. Right? Just because it comes from that doesn't mean paper is a more sustainable option than something else. Sin of no proof. A claim that can't be substantiated by easily accessible supporting information. Okay, so there's no real proof for that claim. A sin of vagueness. So something that's so poorly defined that it's going to be misunderstood. So something like all natural. There's no real definition for all natural. So that's kind of open to interpretation. It's very vague. Sin of, it's the next one, worshiping false labels. So it gives the impression of third-party endorsement where there really isn't an endorsement. So sometimes you'll see like a manufacturer will put their own label on something and make it look like, there's this outside entity that gave them a label and gave them some special thing for it when really they didn't. Sin of irrelevance. So claim that could be true, but it's unimportant or unhelpful. So something like CFC-free. Well, it's great that the product is CFC-free, but CFCs have been banned by law, so every product is going to be CFC-free. Lesser of 2 evils. It might be true, so something that might be true within a category, but is kind of distracting the consumer from the impacts by the category as a whole. I remember a few years ago when the Lorax movie came out, there was a Lorax commercial for a SUV, for a sport utility vehicle. So they tried to advertise that SUV as being, very environmentally friendly and efficient. Well, we know that SUVs really aren't, right, compared to other types of vehicles. So you kind of lose that when you talk about the lesser of 2 evils. And then the last one is the sin of fibbing. So claims that are simply false. So somebody that's claiming some kind of environmental benefit when really there's none. So those are kind of the the ones to look out for, if you will. And you'll see that the most common ones they found in cleaning products were vagueness, so things like all natural or non-toxic or other labels like that, and then no proof, so not actually having proof behind the claim that they are making. Which brings us to third-party certifications. So when you're shopping for products or you're choosing products, the one way to shop or one thing to look for are third-party certifications. So these are environmental performance criteria or standards awarded by a third-party organization. So someone outside of the manufacturer themselves. And then they're there to verify that the product meets the standard, and these are voluntary. So Green Seal, the EPA Design for the Environment, Eco Logo, and Natural Products Association, those really have kind of ingredient lists, or are based on kind of ingredient lists and say, the product does not contain these ingredients. That's a big component of those. The USDA Organic, I'll talk about in more detail in the next slide. And then the USDA Certified Bio-Based Product is really looking at the ingredients in the product, and are they bio-based or not? Are they coming from a natural source? Are they coming from synthetic sources? So organic products, I find more and more organic cleaners now on the market. And then the USDA regulates the use of the term organic and kind of the organic seal as it applies to agricultural products through the National Organic Program. So this is the same program that will label your fruits and vegetables as organic. So you have to meet the same standards in order to get the seal, or in order to meet kind of the requirements. And then this table here shows you what the package will say and what the composition of the personal care product or the cleaner or whatever it is, and what must be on the product packaging. So something that says 100% organic has to contain 100% organic ingredients. Anything that just says organic must contain 95% organic ingredients. Anything that says made with organic ingredients has to have at least 70%. And if you have less than 70, it can't be labeled organic at all. So you can kind of keep that in mind. Organic is really the only buzzword, that has some meaning behind it. Like all natural, non-toxic, eco-friendly, all of those, there's no standard for using those terms. And then some alternative cleaning ingredients. So some different products, what you can use, some kind of practical examples. We talked about baking soda a little bit to deodorize or kind of as an air freshener. Using non-antibacterial soap, using lemon. I use lemons in my garbage disposal to clean out my garbage disposal. White vinegar is great. It's very cheap too, so it makes a great cleaner. You can use white vinegar also as a fabric softener in your washing machine. I have done that for many years. You can also use it as a rinse aid in your dishwasher. I've also done that for many years. So just instead of using like a jet dry or something similar, you just fill the compartment with white vinegar. Your dishes do not smell like vinegar. Using cornstarch is another one you can use instead of baking soda to absorb smell. Using citrus solvents instead. Drain and oven cleaners, I mentioned earlier, are two of kind of the most hazardous cleaners that we use in our homes. So some things you can use instead, you can use baking soda and vinegar to unclog drains. Baking soda, vinegar, and hot water. We've done that at our house for many years. And you can use baking soda and water to clean the inside of your oven. This one I haven't done, but I've heard from many that it works. You kind of spray the inside of your oven, coat it with baking soda, let it sit overnight if you can, or a few hours, and then everything will just kind of rub off in the morning. You can clean it all off. Again, you can go online and look. There's a lot of recipes, a lot of methods out there for how to clean with some of these better, preferable ingredients. Just be careful when you look at some of them, because just because they say that it's a greener cleaner doesn't necessarily mean that it is. Sometimes they'll have some not so good ingredients mixed in there too. And then lastly, for the last few minutes, I'll go through some resources. So where can you go online to help you shop a little bit better? The first one here is the National Library of Medicine's Household Products Database. So you can see there's cleaning products under, where is it, inside the home. But there's also, auto products, personal care, pet care, arts and crafts, etc. So all kinds of different products. So you can go in here, you can search for products by name, and it'll pull up the product information, the manufacturer, what the health effects are of that product and the ingredients, any handling, disposal concerns, really anything that has to do with that product. You can pull up that information. So that's one way to kind of get information about products that you have now. The Environmental Working Group's Guide to Healthy Cleaning. This is a great one if you want to look up products that you currently use, or you want to shop for a different product. So you can look, search for cleaning products by name. You can look for types. You can search for companies. You can search at the company level, or you can search for specific ingredients. So here's an example of Windex. So if I just went in, typed in Windex, and then, there are probably 5 or 6 different types of Windex out there. So I chose the original glass cleaner with ammonia. And then you kind of see if my cursor will work. There's an overall score up here. This has a D. So this is a letter grading system. So A, B, C, D, F. So there'll be an overall score for the product. Then you'll see here in this middle section is kind of the concern summary. So these will always stay the same: asthma, respiratory, skin allergies and irritation, etc. Those will always stay the same. So you can quickly see, kind of a summary of the concerns. And then below that, it says top scoring factors. So you can see the reason why it had those concerns and what the biggest concerns are associated with that product. And then underneath, it lists all the product ingredients. So this is just cut off to make it easier for us to look today. But it will list every product or every ingredient, what the concerns are with that ingredient, and what the ingredient's individual score is as well. Again, A, B, C, D, F. You can click on the ingredient itself if you want to read more about the ingredient. I mean, this is all based on scientific information. I mean, it's based on studies that have been done in peer-reviewed journals. It's based on authoritative government lists. So there's real science behind all of this as well. And again, you can shop. Let's say instead of shopping this way, I just said I want a glass cleaner. I want to choose a new glass cleaner. Then from the previous page, you can go to top products, or you can, all the way on the left over here where it says products, air fresheners, all-purpose, you can scroll down. I could scroll down to glass cleaner, click on that, and it will list all the glass cleaners that they have listed in their database. So it's kind of a neat way to shop. This is a guide to less toxic products from Environmental Health Association of Nova Scotia. So they have done a great job of listing concerns with ingredients typically used in each type of product. So these are all household cleaners. They identify less toxic alternative brands. They have some recipes for homemade alternatives or homemade cleaners, and some tips for each one of them too. And again, just like the National Library of Medicine's household products database, there's also personal care products, there's baby care products. You can read all those kind of over on the the left-hand side of the screen. So there's other products in there as well. And last but not least, packaging, just another thing to think about, really the environmental impacts of packaging for some of the cleaners that we buy. Some things to do: choosing recyclable packaging. It's really hard not to anymore. Choose packaging that's recyclable. Choose packaging that has recycled content or that has bio-based content. Choose concentrates instead of ready-to-use formulas. So the 7th generation laundry detergent, that's the example on the top over there. You can see on the left, they're both 50-ounce containers. The one on the left is 4 times concentrated soap, so you can do 66 loads. And the one on the right is a 2x concentrate, so you can only do 33 loads. So kind of choosing a concentrate, which means it's a reduced footprint of transporting the cleaner, so now you don't have to transport all the extra water. Uses less packaging as well, right? The more concentrated it is, the more uses you can fit in one bottle. And choosing refills when they're available too. So like the method example on the bottom, on the left, you see there's a 18-ounce liquid dish soap, so that's the pump that you would buy in the store. And then on the right, there's the refill. So the refill, you can refill your pump twice. It costs less to do that. And according to method, the pouch uses 78% less plastic, less water, and less energy than the pump. So you're simply using the refill instead of the pump. And it's been my own experience that you can refill a pump like that, 5-6 times before the pump itself needs to be replaced. I'm starting to see, excuse me, glass cleaners and all-purpose cleaners that are similar. Like you can buy a very small concentrate that you go home and you just refill your old spray bottle. So you put the concentrate and add water to it. Again, typically cheaper, uses a lot less packaging as well. So just to wrap up, we have a Green Homes for Cleaner Lakes brochure available. So this brochure summarizes all the key concepts and actions you can take from all 4 of the workshops that we're doing and the webinars that we're doing. If you would like a printed copy, if you want a lot of printed copies to distribute through your organization, there's Bonnie's contact information. And we can get those to you. We have plenty, so if anybody's interested in them, we can definitely get that out to you. And then a plug for the remainder of the webinars in the series. So today was a Tuesday, but all the rest will be on Wednesdays. So starting next Wednesday, we'll be covering safer household products, and a week later, hazardous waste at home, and lastly, the potential hidden dangers of personal care products. So we hope that you guys can join us for the rest of those as well. So do we have any, if you have any questions, if you could please type them in